This stuff here, Yerushalmi Eruvin, article Ozba edition with Daf Nun Aleph Amid Aleph. The third line, the second line, actually towards the end of the line, Yesh Teven Shuka Afav Afagu Shuka Teven, and that in the Vilna is on Daf Mem Zayin and Beis. It's in the middle of the halacha, 5 lines from the beginning of the Gemara. Okay, yesh temen shuka afar shuka teven. Sometimes you have, when you fill a hole, the chritz, the trench between the two chatzeros. So sometimes when you use dirt, it's not batel, it's like straw, it's not batel. And actually, the other way around. There's straw, which is like dirt, and it's batel. Afar shuka teven. And there's sometimes that there's afar, which is like teven. And we're not talking about, like I said yesterday, that it's the teven, which is bolab offer, which is mixed with dirt. We're giving a different interpretation. That's the Korban A points out. We don't have to talk about, let's say we're talking like Rabbi Yossi. I say the Ayad B'Shabolo. We're talking about we mix with the dirt with the with the straw. Even regular straw, if you have no intention of removing it, it's bato. Mastis and our mission about Tevin Shasi Fanoso. It's the our mission story about Tevin where you are eventually going to remove it, and therefore it's not considered to be bato. It brings down another interpretation that the Lishna Achrina here, but we'll leave it with this interpretation. Okay, so Yeshem Shugafar Offer Shugataman, Tevich Eno Sifano. So Reik Offer, if it's Taman destroying, you have no intent to remove it. I think Taman is actually hay, but in any event, same idea. You don't intend to remove it. Reik Offer, it's like dirt, and therefore it is bato. Offer Shalsifano, so if you put in dirt, but you intend to remove it, then it's like hay, and it's not bato. The base Rabbi Yanai Amri in the house Rabbi Yanai said, "I feel like machletzos." The Korban says, "Teven bitlo." Even you didn't have a specific intent to leave the teven there, but you covered it with tarps. So you're vata shemistam edaito fanoso. That indicates you have no intent of removing that hay. Isachame. So I understand the one says, "Come see." Below Machzeos Lobet, if you fill it full of tarps, the whole trench, it's not bato. Chivo Machzeos bato, the fact that you put in hay and covered it with the tarp, and now it's bato, doesn't seem to make any sense. The footprints are there for the Machzeos does not indicate any bittul. Milo Charios. If you fill charios, then that's a question. So it's a whole question what charios are. So the Korban says charios shodeko, but in Psachim the girsa is chivos, and the Mashbiach goes with that girsa, and he says it's language of chaysa the kitrei. A sack full of knots. Anyway, so the question is, if you filled it full of sacks, then does that count? Does it count like sandbags? Is that actually considered to be a mute or not? So either the chareos, it means like blocks of wood, or it's chibayos, means you put in sandbags. Tzricho, not sure if that's going to be. It has for the flips and but on the other hand, they're bags. So we don't know if that's going to be a meat or not. Rabbi Zichron, Rabbi Yam, Shem Reish Lakish, I feel rake. Now here it says I feel roke. So if you fill it, which is pella, the Korban says, fill a little bit roke, even fill the chritz full of saliva. It's considered to be a valid closing off of that trench. But if according to the Mashbiach's Girsa here and others in Magia, it should be afilu rake, and even if the sandbags are empty, then the chivos are empty, they are still considered to be bottled there because that's the purpose of sandbags, right? Even if they're empty, they're meant to leave there, and therefore they override the trench, and the trench is considered to be full, and therefore it's not going to interrupt between the two chatzeros. The article wants to say that roke just is any mayim suchim, and it does bring the gears a rake, but it says it means well, it's only partially full. But I think that the mashbiach works out quite beautifully. Okay, next Mishnah. Nesser, you put a beam over it. I picture the art scroll. Good beam over the trench. Top picture. So kosher rachab arba tfachim. Well, the article takes out the word kol. So it's not a kosher, it has to be 4 tvachim wide. So, but you can read it kosher rachab arba tvachim as long as it's 4 tvachim wide. Chen shtei ktzutzos zeh keneged zu. You have two ktzutzos, two balconies. Two scenarios in the article. Top one's like Rashi. They're on one side of Rishus Rabim, and they are one house, one next house, and the you have the picture of the bottom Rabbi Yonasan, where the two opposite sides Rishus Rabim. So Ma'arvin Ishnaim, they have to make two Eruvin. Imratzu Ma'arvin Echad. So the Korban says Shnei coming Tikra Beles Shusiyachid Our Shusram. It's like balcony Jayach Shusiyachid on Shusram. Nasa Rochav Arba Mizulazu. Having Pesa. If you put a board, one of the other. I don't think there's a picture of the board here. Picture of the board over here in this picture in the article. That either according to Rashi, according to Rabbeinu Yonasan. That picture. So. If they want to make two, they want to make one. Pachas mikan, if it's less than the 4 tvachim wide, so then the person's not going to use it as an opening as a bridge from one to the other. Ma'arvin shtayim, they have to definitely make two of them. Ma'arvin echad. Okay, so the East Tani, the Gemara says in the Sefer, those who learn Ma'ar Mishnah ve'em Ma'arvin Echad, like we have in our Mishnah. East Tani Ma'arvin Echad ve'em Ma'arvin Shnayim, but there is if it's less than that, then Ma'arv 1 and not 2. So, how do we understand the Girsa? Man Ma'arvin Shnayim ve'em Ma'arvin Echad. Pachos Mikan. The word Pachos Mikan is going beneser, going on the board. Marvin Echad, who says that you have to make one Erev and not two Eruvin, then Pachas Mikan is going on the Chalal. Says explain Korban Chalal Shebecharitz or Sheben Shnei Ktzutzos Pachas Me'arba Tfachim. If it says in 4 Tfachim gap between the two balconies, then you have to make one Erev between. The one Erev, there's not enough of a gap between the two of them, and therefore they have to make one Erev between the two of them. Okay, halacha hay. You have a matbein, that's a pile of pile of hay. You have a picture here of the Parish Chai, top picture over here. You have a matbein between two chatzeros, and obviously a cow is eating from the pile of hay. So the Benjamin Shechet says, Gavoa Asar Tfachim, if it's 10 Tfachim high, Ma'arvin Shtayim Me'im Ma'arechad, they have to make two Eruvin because it's a wall, and they can't make one. Each of them can feed its cattle from its side. Nismai at 10 Tfachim, if it became less than 10 Tfachim, which is the picture over here. Right, they ate away at the top. Something else happened at the top that got chewed away. So then, Marvin Echad ve'Marvin Shtayim, they have to make one Erev, not two. So the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Eliezer said, Kini mas nisa. This way to understand Mishnah. Elam ma'ik upasim mikanu ma'achilin. These can fill their their buckets here. And from this side ma'achilin and give to the animals. Elam ma'achilin. and these people can take from this bucket from on this side and give their animals to eat. Now, the Gourmet says in this, the Mashal Malicha Behem Shom. It doesn't mean they have to specifically take the animal to the Madbein. Ela Filu Kol Echon Nes Tokabas. Everybody can put it in his own bucket. Magal Ento give his animal to eat. V'lo Chashin Do Mashakil Tuba. And that concern is going to take too much. Umayt Le Masora, and he's going to diminish the size in 10 tefachim. Komital Chatzor says he's carrying Chatzor, which is awesome. Lo mean the Muktzah Mesim Chitzu. We also don't say that it's Muktzah for this wall. So we're not concerned that by taking buckets you're going to inadvertently diminish the size in 10 tefachim more than if an animal eats it. And we're also not concerned that it's considered muktzah to create a wall, and therefore that you can't use it. Chagai said, when we say in front of Menachem, it was one of the Menachem was, I think, one of the late Tanoim. I remember Menachem was. No, Menachem was, no, that's an earlier Menachem. There was a Menachem, I think it was before Shammai took over. As the counterpart of Hill, there was a Menachem who left. So I don't know who this Menachem is, because that would be much earlier. Yeah. Not anybody speaks about it. No, not sure who this Menachem is. But in any event, so when we say in front of Menachem, I have an Omri, we'd say, Shalot Tomar, don't say, Eino, Kisos Olim, Ela Kisomech Olim. In other words, so the way to understand is, don't say that even though, even the way the Reb Chaim understands it, that even though he's not like breaking down the tent, he is also because he is like he's supporting the tent. How would that be? Shimoya Tevin Merudad, that if perhaps you let him use buckets, he's not going to diminish it, but maybe if the from the sides of the maybe if the hay is straggling, is kind of like has gaps in it. Shu Somcha Tzikup is going to use the side of his bucket and be somech though, and actually put the OL back in place. The question is whether Rabbi Chagai is arguing Rabbi Lezer or explaining Rabbi Lezer. There's some portion that he's arguing. I think the Pashut Shot is that he's explaining, saying that there's an issue also, and I don't think there's an issue. It's not an issue that he's going to use the bucket to support the OL. No, he's not going to do it. We're conscious of that. He's not going to rebuild the wall if it looks like it fell. Well, once we talk about Tzomech Olim, so Rabbi Yoshiboy Asal Sadin, you had used a sheet to divide between your yards. Usmach Lekise, and at Shabbos is where Reb Chaim and let's learn it out like the Korban Pnei Moshe, and you wanted to support it with a chair. It's Shabbos, right? It's flopping around, so you wanted to support it with a chair. Are you allowed to do that, to support it with that chair? Yerushalmi says yes. An interesting lashon though Yerushalmi uses in order to say yes. Nomar kan l'shahos. Let's say where you do it temporarily because nobody's leaving a chair there permanently, so it's not making a wall. It's just sustaining the mechitza, which in itself is temporary one because it's just a sheet. So therefore, it's not binyan nomar kan l'shahos when it's also it's a place where you do it in order to leave it there permanently. Okay, Tani, we learned madbein shebein shtei chatzeros. You have a madbein, the pile of hay between the two chatzeros. Zeposech pischa mikanu machil, zeposech pischa mikanu machil. Each one could open their door into this and the door into this madbein. Evidently, the madbein is in a kind of like a separate area, similar to the case over here in the Bavli. Here it's more complicated, but you know the idea. There's a pesach. This is pesach. This is a pesach, and there's a madbein in the middle. If you get the middle walls over here for now, okay. So you have each one open the door and go in there. Nismai Tevin Me'asor Tvachim. If the Tevin comes, since they didn't make and they're together, if the Tevin gets Tvachim Shnei Mitzrayim, neither of them is allowed to use the hay pile. Ad She'arvu, right? The until making an Erev together. As a Pesach, for somebody, one of them wants to close off his opening into that common area. Ulevata Rishusa means here Olevata Rishusa, or the Levata Rishus, right? The who also he's not allowed to use the Madbain because he closed off his opening, and he's no longer affiliated with that. And or it's about his Rishus there. He's not allowed to use it. And his friend is allowed to use it. Okay, and then the same thing is true here. The Chaim puts in v'chein charit shebein shtei chatzeros, also a trench between two yards. So either you change the girsa to the light-in girsa, or it's light. As the charitz means here, like the light-in girsa, it's talking about a bore between two chatzeros, and between, which means that there's like a well of a tevin of like a depressed madbain. Or so there could be a bor mamish that you have bor of water between two chatzeros, which is the same principle as this madbain between two chatzeros, that one can close himself off and the other guy can use it, or the of course he has to close himself off before Shabbos begins, and or the mivata zushus, and the other guy can be mivata, can use it to fill up water on Shabbos. Now, having said that, I immediately felt uneasy about that, and I think that also the next Gemara that even they closed himself off on Shabbos, just like Bit Shus works on Shabbos, he can close himself off on Shabbos by just close the door and his friend can use it. Let's see next Gemara. It's not clear to me here, but I think so. Hadamras teaches us the Karmei changes. Most people change it. It's Mevatli Mechotzer Chotzer. Mevatli Shus Mechotzer Chotzer. By the way, Yasko has a much more elaborate picture, which is very confusing, I think. But this is the Madbain. A separate area. See, it's closed off. Each one has a Pesach into that Madbain from the rest of the Chotzer. Okay. Anyway, but be as it may. Hadamras Mevatli Mechotzer Chotzer. I feel low Eruvin. Even they make an Erev, they can close off the Pesach on Shabbos, right? It could be going on both Bittul and Pesach Pashas, right? Saying even they weren't married for Shabbos like they were supposed to, still be Bittul on Shabbos, which we know, and presumably also closing the Pesach on Shabbos, be enough to be mistalik from it. But I assume that he has to close his Pesach, even if either has to close from before Shabbos or on Shabbos, he has to close and not open again for Shabbos because it has to be a form of Bittul. Hadamara, this teaches us, afilu lo, here it says, kainuyo, but in the Vilna, but the Shulchan Aruch changes, afilu lo kivnu. Again, I think it means that they didn't have money before Shabbos. They didn't plan. So on Shabbos, they're confronted with this issue of who's going to use the matbein, who's going to use the bor, the charitz, if you have to use the grease. So they can still rectify on Shabbos. So you can't two rishus can't use one rishus. So the way Karmei says that you have to have. When you have a matbein, it has to be matbein is high enough that it divides between the two. They can't just both use it unless there's a barrier between the two of them, separating the two of them from since they didn't make an eruv with each other. And if the matbein there's a problem, so then they have to take care of it by bittul of nismait mesor, that take care of it by being mavata or closing off the door. Even though they have, each one accesses it by an opening, I don't know, each, it's good. It says, I feel the zeb pesach, shemus mishtamish. Can't show mechitzah mafsekes, right? They, even though they both have doors opening to the matbein, they can't use it. Shnei Masurim. V'chein habayis shebeit shtei chatzeros. You have a house which is between two chatzeros. It's a similar principle. Says the so one should close himself off, and then the other one can use it, or one should about to choose the other. Look, Rabbi Meir, and it's not Rabbi Meir. The Amar Bayis shebein shano aser. So the interesting the because it explains Korbaneda. The Bayis shebein says feel no mitzad echad even it's locked one side lo mahani. Right, the Bayis in rotzachem listos pischo and fashtima mamish. If it's and here Korbaneda says explicitly, where I was wondering that before. We can't say he's closing it, blocking it off on Shabbos, blocking it mamish. Blocking mamish. Shabbos side. I go highly stomly no. So to hear listom means to lock it. So it says explicitly. I was running before reneging, and good thing I reneged because here it is that if you lock it on Shabbos, that's sufficient. Okay, so not like Rameir says, well, locking on Shabbos, you can always unlock it. No, you lock it and intend to keep it locked on Shabbos. That's good enough, and it becomes to be mutter for the other side to use it for the rest of Shabbos. Okay, halacha vav. Ketzim mishtatfin. How do you do a shituf v'mavui? You put down a chavis. It could be yours. You don't necessarily have to collect him. Zakat to other people. You put down your jug and say this for all the people in the mavui. How do you do that? Of course, you have to be mazakat. It's not just enough to say it. You have to bestow on them ownership. You can bestow ownership by by your son and daughter who are adults, or by male or female Jewish slaves, through your wife, all of which can make these transactions because they're adults. But you can't use your children or minors nor an Evet Shivcha, even their Gedol or Knanim, non-Jewish slaves, and they shouldn't kill them because they don't have, not because they're not adults, obviously, they're adults, but because they don't have their own independent rishus. They can't have independent ownership distinct from their owners, and therefore they can't acquire ownership on behalf of others. The article here in the Chilufik Yerushalmi has a whole discussion of whether Beno Bito Knanim here literally means minors, or it could mean that Smuchim al Shulchan Avim, they're adults, but they are living at home and supported from their father's household. So then that's also considered to be Ketanim in terms of Hilchos Chia, and the Gemara is going to touch on it later. Obviously not today, but tomorrow gets it. Okay, I think tomorrow, maybe after. No, tomorrow. Okay, so Tani, we learned Ein Mazakelim b'Chavish Martef. You can't just say, okay, I have a barrel in my cellar, and I'll be mazaka to the people of the Mavli in my barrel in my cellar. No, why not? Because because we're afraid that he's going to forget and he's going to drink it if you just allow us and leave it in the cellar. Interesting alternative shot here, which is from a parish on the Tosefta, which is that Shem Yishkach v'Yishtaneh, not Yishtaneh, but you change. In other words, the question of Breira. But you said I'll get the Rizoich in one of my barrels, and we'll figure out which one, right? So no, or might get Swiss. So no, you can't do it because you're going to switch it around and. In Breira, that's not the pshat. I don't think it's pshat Yerushalmi. Okay, the pshat is it's in the Bavli that you're going to come to drink it. Okay, but it's cute. There's a different alternative of yishtaneh instead of yishtana. Manakaim. So what Evet Shivcha are we talking about here? We're talking about Evet Shivcha, Jewish Evet Shivcha. Im G'dayla, if we're talking about a Shivcha as an adult, she's not a Shivcha anymore. It's talking about Simonim. She already went free when she became 12 years old. In Bektav, talking about a Katan Zacha. How can we call them Zecha? So on Rabbeinu Bar Shalom Kuk Rabbi Yosef, it said Tipot Command Amar Katan Torah. It's going to the opinion that holds that a cotton can take truma. Oh, so then of course no Bito definitely should be talking about if it's going to cotton is Torah. So then no Bito Ketani here must be not an issue of there being minors, but rather being an issue of there not being separate shus. So our mission is going like the assumption that a cotton can take truma. I feel command my ain't a cotton. No, even a truma cotton can't take truma. A cotton zacha. There is a cotton has zechia. Okay, so now we're gonna have a long discussion of zechia by cotton, but that already is on the next Amud. So I think we'll have to leave it for tomorrow. Yes.